Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of Gate 7 International, your number one English source for all things Olympiacos. We're back. I'm your co-host, Costa. I'm joined with Ari tonight. Ladies and gents, white smoke. Finally, it seems we have a new coach, Marca, a big Spanish sports daily out of Madrid. Reported today that Diego Martinez will be signing a 2-year contract until 2025. He's expected in Athens now, according to Greek reports, on Tuesday. So finally, looks like this soap opera is over, or in Greek, to serial. Normally, the soap operas don't end well with transfer stories and other things that we followed over the years, but it looks like this one is going to cross the finish line, and Diego Martinez is expected in Athens on Tuesday, as we say in Greek as well, to kalo prama argina yini. And we're here today again. Ari's going to unpack the tactics and analyze Diego Martinez' playing style, coaching style. We've got insights into what happened at Espanyol. I know a lot of you have been saying on socials, yeah, but because of the season that Espanyol had, because Espanyol got relegated, we've got context for that too. So do stick around. We've got the latest team news, what's going on with transfers, ins and outs, the 17 loan players that we have. Lots to talk about today, ladies and gentlemen. But before we dive into all of that, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe, help the community to keep growing, and do make sure to keep those comments coming in the chat as well. We'll address those comments throughout the show. So great to have you with us. Ari, what's up?
What's going on, man? Really quickly, we should also wish a happy Father's Day to all of the fathers that are in our audience. Costa, you are a father. I'm a father. Happy Father's Day to us. And as I mentioned, I wanted to be inclusive of Marcial, Lambro, and Costa. If she calls you daddy, you can celebrate too. So everybody can celebrate Father's Day if you meet that criteria. So I'm happy to be here, guys. There's a lot to unpack with Diego Martinez, especially because there's I saw quite a bit of negativity, understandable, that people had about him. So I hope that I can do exactly what I did when Carlos Corberán came in and give you guys some insight on how Olympiacos could shape up with him. But he's a very interesting coach to discuss.
And big ups to all the long-time followers, people like Andreas, Manos, some new people chiming in as well. Stathis, good evening, guys. Each and every one, thanks for tuning in. It's going to be a really good episode, guys. I think we really needed this news as well. We needed the uncertainty to end about the coach, and things can start to happen. Shall we start diving into things slowly but surely?
Yeah, why not? Let's do it. Do you want to start with the coach, or do you want to get started with some of the player news real quick?
I think people are tuning in tonight because they want to know more about the coach. But we can come to the players.
That works for me. That works for me. So I think then, as you guys know, we should go into a couple of quick things first. You guys want to know the profile of Diego Martinez. I'll give you a very quick profile, just kind of like how I do with the deep dives on what type of coach he is and what we can expect. Then I'm going to do it a little differently. I'm going to go through a little bit of his history to give everyone context of what he's accomplished so far. So as far as formation goes, I've seen a lot of people talk about 4-2-3-1, for this and that, and that's true. The formation he's used the most since he became a coach, I should say a main coach, a primary manager, that is 4-2-3-1. That is the one he uses the most, but it is not the only formation he uses. Diego Martinez is not a one-trick pony. He does not stick with one scheme, and then that's what you see the whole time. This guy will make adjustments, one, depending on the player and personnel that we have, but also depending on who we're playing against. I've seen him use 5-2-3. I've seen him use 4-4-2. I've seen him use 4-3-3. And when we get into the discussion about his formation and shapes, when we do not have the ball, or when his teams do not have the ball, don't be surprised if you see the shape kind of pan out into a little bit of a 5-4-1. Again, that's on the defensive end. The consistent things, though, that you will see, regardless of the team that he's coaching, is a couple of things. First, He presses very high defensive line usually, and a very intense press, especially considering the talent that's at his disposal. The press is very aggressive in terms of actions per pure minute of opposing possession. So you like to see that his PPDAs are always under 10 average. So very high press, very aggressive press, one way or another. His teams are also usually really good on set pieces. I see a lot of goals come off of set pieces from him, a lot of movement, very aggressive on those set pieces. So something to keep an eye on. And probably one of the more important things and a reason that he is coming to a club like Olympiacos is that this guy's a project coach. He can work on a budget, and he does very well with kind of gathering what's around him. The teams that he's taken over have been, in most cases, disaster scenarios when he takes over. And he fixes up and makes something, usually Espanyol as the exception, makes something out of those things. So as I mentioned, it's really important that we go through the history of Diego Martinez, because I've already seen a lot of people complaining about it. You guys are already getting questions. I will get to those things. I promise you. I'll address your questions, and if I haven't, we'll touch on it after the fact. But when he first got into the coaching sphere, he was actually discovered by Monchi when he was playing at Sevilla. You guys might recognize him. He was a sporting director at Roma for a while, and he was the sporting director at Sevilla when Unai Emery was the coach. So Diego Martinez was the assistant manager under Unai Emery when Sevilla won the Europa League that season. It was the 2013-2014 season. Now, when he broke off and decided to go on his own, his first coaching gig was at Osasuna. Osasuna, in that first year as a coach with them, he missed promotion by 1 point. He had the best defense in the Segunda Division. His first coaching gig. And as we all know, and this is where he kind of made his name, was going to Granada the following year. He was brought in by none other than Olympiacos' current sporting director, Antonio Cordon. And he took this Granada team, which, while he coached Osasuna, finished in 10th place. Horrible. He had a budget of 80,000 euros. He had the second lowest overall goals conceded, lowest overall expected goals conceded, got promotion with the 6th highest ball possession overall in the Segunda Division, and the lowest transfer budget. And he achieved all of that with Granada while playing some pretty attractive football to get them promoted. Now, when he made it to La Liga in that first year, all but 3 of his players had La Liga experience. And those 3 players that had La Liga experience were the ones that he brought in. So none of the players he had while he was at Granada actually had experience in La Liga. He had one of the 5 lowest budgets that summer for La Liga, spent only 12 million euros that season, or that summer leading into that. He was 6th in overall goal score, 8th in goals conceded, 7th in expected goals conceded, while still having the 7th most shots against. He had the 5th lowest XG per shot. So to give you guys an idea, this man had one of the highest volumes of shots against his team, against his goalkeeper, yet somehow they managed to have the 5th lowest XG per shot. That is a tight defense, and a defense that did not allow very threatening opportunities. In that next year in La Liga, his 3rd season there, their 2nd year in La Liga, they, of course, made Europa League, as you guys may know. They spent a little bit more money. They spent about 20 million euro. That was the 7th highest budget that year. They ended the season in 9th. That was which was I think it was a position lower than they finished the previous season. But they made it to the quarterfinals of the Copa del Rey and the quarterfinals of Europa League. So they were playing in 3 competitions. Now, you did see a much more defensive brand of ball, a little bit more conservative, because 3 competitions, and of course he's using a lot more players, so he played a little bit more conservatively. We noticed that, but he still ended up 10th in terms of overall goals scored. But he did have the most goals conceded, 2nd highest in terms of expected goals conceded. But some things that were missed in that is that he had the 7th most duel wins per match and the 7th most interceptions. Again, all of this is related to his super high press. which is very interesting considering, again, the type of budget he had, the type of players he had while he was at Grenada. Lastly, and this is the one that everybody freaks out about, is Espanyol. Now, Costa, I know you have some more information on this, but just to give you guys some numbers about his time here at Espanyol, they only spent the summer he came in 1.9 million euros. Again, he had one of the lowest budgets in La Liga this past season. Yet somehow they still ended up with the 6th highest goal scored and the 7th highest XG overall in La Liga. But of course, what everybody is focusing on is the fact that he had the most goals conceded. But there's something I should tell you. This is inside the data. His defense was underperforming. No surprise, because in terms of XG per shot, they were actually 10th overall. So underperforming in a big way. Now, Costa, it's just some more to kind of explain the calamity of a situation, as Lambro would like to call it, at Espanyol. Tell everybody exactly what happened at Espanyol.
Right. So I remembered that when I was playing football here, I used to play with a guy that's a big Espanyol fan, and I called him today. I hadn't talked to any Espanyol fans. Like, I'd done my research on the coach by looking at YouTube videos, looking at past interviews. I even watched the press conference that he gave when he, was sacked from Espanyol. And I talked to the guy, and honestly, like, the context that he gave me is absolutely fantastic. And Ari, you mentioned they were leaking a lot of goals this season.
Yes.
They signed 3 keepers in the last season. But let me start from the beginning. Espanyol is a team that's Chinese owned. Their owner turns up around once a year via Zoom, is what I was told. It's a very, it's a badly run club. And the relationship of owners with La Liga and with the referees is also an important factor in La Liga, not only in the Greek Super League. Second thing is, overall, the planning was absolutely terrible. The season that went by, Martinez didn't get any of the players that he wanted to suit the type of football that he really wants to play. We know he's versatile, he's flexible in his tactical approach. I've heard him in one of his press conferences. He was asked, what kind of football do you want your teams to play? And I'm sure it's a question that he's going to get from the Greek media as well. His answer to the question was, if I have lemons, I'll make lemonade. And if I have oranges, I'll make orange juice. So he'll make do with what he has. Yeah. Okay. And, you said it already. He's very flexible in his tactical approach. He likes to start out with that 4-2-3-1 with an enganche behind the striker. He likes to play, from what I've seen, with a small, undersized striker as well. Maybe good news for Pep Biel.
Yep.
We'll see. But let's go back to Espanyol for a minute. So goalkeeper was a massive issue for them at the beginning of the season because Diego Lopez left the club on a free transfer. I think he's aged, he's 40 or something now. It was their number 1 goalkeeper for about 7 seasons. And so he was moved on, and they initially signed Lecomte on loan from Monaco. He was the number 2 over at Atletico Madrid last season. They also signed Alvaro Fernandez from Brentford. He was Brentford's number 2 behind David Raya, but he barely played. Anyway, by January, Lecomte's loan was terminated. Fernandez was a calamity. And then they signed Pacheco from Almeria, who was available on a free in the summer. And then they paid 2.5 million for him in January. So that already says a lot about the team. Like, when you don't have someone like under the sticks that gives confidence to the defense as well, and you're changing keepers all the time, not good. The other example of just how much of a shit show it has been at Espanyol is Raúl de Tomàs. Many of you will know him from his time on loan from Real Madrid. Big goal scorer. He signed for Benfica a couple of seasons ago for 20 million. And then didn't have a great season at Benfica, and Espanyol bought him back to Spain for 22.5 million. and they sold him at the start of last season to Rayo Vallecano for 8 million plus 3 million in add-ons. So, you hear all of that and you're thinking, oh my God, like those are for me really good examples to give you, about what was going on at Espanyol. Really, as I said, I talked to one person I know that supports the team, but generally talking to him and looking over social media and around Martinez's sacking, you really get the feeling that it wasn't his fault. Even at the press conference after he was sacked, the press room was applauding him on his way out. So, for everyone that's concerned about what happened at Espanyol, and some people that are going a bit too far and saying, oh, he got Espanyol relegated. No. He did what he could with the cards that he was dealt at Espanyol. He changed tactics to suit the players that he had. And for a while, it worked at Espanyol last season, but then they had quite a few injuries. And slowly but surely, they also became very one-dimensional in terms of the way they could play. They became predictable, and it all started going downhill. Yeah, so I think the Espanyol context is really important here. We've also Cordon. We know that he had a really good working relationship with him in the first 2 seasons of Granada. Cordon was there for 2 seasons. The first 2 seasons, wasn't there the third one. But this is really important. Like, who's going to be around Diego Martinez? There's a whole new setup at Olympiacos right now. Even for Cordon, this is a massive experiment. This is like Olympiacos has never had a proper sporting director, technical director, like we see it in clubs across Europe.
Right.
And we not quite sure how things are working right now. My feeling is, from everything that we've been seeing the last few weeks, is that Antonio Cordon is keeping things quite close to the chest. There's not a lot of information going out to the Greek press. All of the information that we've been trying to get for like transfers or, with the coach, it's all coming out of Spanish media. It's not being filtered like it normally has been the last couple of years via the Greek media. It's different. You can feel that by reading the press every day. They don't know as much. And I think that shows you something a little bit about how things are working. One question that I have is what's going on with the decision making. Has Mr. Marinakis really given the keys over to Cordon? What's the decision making process? Cordon directly with Marinakis? That's what I think. Some people saying, does Cordon have to go to Vredzos? What's the hierarchy there? But from what it seems right now to me, Cordon is keeping things very close to the chest, and I want to, I have a feeling that he's done his homework when it comes to the players that he wants, and that's maybe part of the reason why things have taken so long. Like, they've sat down, they've talked, and not just talked about the finances, his contract, but the players, because this team needs a massive rebuild. We all know that. And guys, we need to be patient. We can't just expect this guy to come in and flip the switch. We can't expect him to come in and flip the switch immediately and go from, and go and play Valverde football. Okay, calma. Like, he needs time. We need to make the signings. We need to be a bit patient here, but overall, like, this is a manager that we signed because of what he did at Granada, what he showed us there. And I think, his background, the people he's worked with, he's come from nothing. He's come from grassroots football in Sevilla. People like Monchi dug him out. Like, people have seen something in him. And one last thing, and I'll shut up. If he didn't have that shit season now at Espanyol, he wouldn't be here.
Right. That is 100% true. And that's kind of the caveat I was going to bring up to people. Had he succeeded at Espanyol, do you really think there was any shot for us to get him here? No, I mean, the context maybe isn't 100% similar to Pedro Martins, but if Pedro Martins had great success or amazing success with anybody that was even just a little bit higher tier of a club in Portugal, we never would have sniffed it either. So it's these types of scenarios where we're finding ourselves where we can get these coaches. And this one, there's a lot of great context here. And I think before we share our opinions, because a lot of people are asking, do you like him? Do you not like him? There was a question about possession. I think Manos G7 had it, but I can't find it here. All I'm going to say is this. You are correct in that if you look at his last couple of seasons, especially since being in La Liga, the average for his teams is to have less possession, especially Espanyol. Grenada, there's a lot more context. Even Diego Martinez admitted that because of the fact that he was in Europe in 3 competitions, he was more conservative because he did not believe that he could stress his players with how high his press is, how intense of a pressing system that he has. He knew he could not work everybody the way that he worked them in previous seasons playing in 2 competitions. Well, in reality, in some cases it was 1 because they would get knocked out of the cup pretty early. So they were playing in one competition. He could press as high and as intense as he wanted, and he didn't have to worry about it. But then all of a sudden he's in 3 competitions. He had to settle things down a bit. You can't run your guys like that all day, every day. You guys remember how things were both times that we were coached by the one, the only Ernesto Valverde, right? You guys remember that game, the Europa League, what was it, round of 16 against Metalist? Do you guys remember? It was like the 77th minute. Our guys looked dead, and we ended up not progressing because towards the end of the game, our guys had been full court pressing for so long that they were just dead, and Metalist was able to score 2 goals because they just had more gas in the tank. So he understands that. He's a very pragmatic coach, and that's something I'm going to get into. I have the little tactics board set up here. I'm going to share my screen with you guys. First, we'll do the general tactics flow. Again, we're going to assume that we're running a 4-2-3-1 because that's what he uses the most, even though he does do other things. But I'm going to focus here primarily on what I saw, no matter what scheme he uses, the consistency with which the ball movement happens, so that you guys can get an idea of what we could see with Olympiacos. After this, we will share with you a little bit more context. We'll share with you our opinions on the matter. But we're going to start with just his general formation, how the ball moves in open play. So he's a Spanish coach, and most Spanish coaches, they play the ball at the back. So when you have a dead ball system like here, there's a goal kick, you're going to see your center backs as always. Same with most Spanish coaches, they're going to drop back to receive the ball. The ball's going to go to one of these players here. Now, what's going to end up happening is as the ball gets distributed, your wing backs are going to go wide. Again, this is nothing new. This is nothing too crazy. This is what we expect, especially from an Olympiacos team that we want to be more offensive oriented. The ball is going to come out here, usually wide, unless a team is pressing high and trying to take width away. If they leave it open, it'll come to the center. Either way, whether it's coming out wide first or going to the center first, this is eventually where the pivot point will be that we want the ball to go. Because in the systems of Diego Martinez, he does stress width. So once the ball eventually gets to this middle part here, we're going to see runs from the wingers going wide. Now, the idea is that they make the runs wide. A midfielder will get drawn to the ball here, and either the ball can get played to assistance from your 10 or from we'll call him the little man, if there's no space or there's no open lane to play the ball wide here. Or if there's an overcommitment by the midfield and the defense, you will see this long ball come wide. This is very, very frequent. So we will need to have a midfielder that is capable of making some of these long balls. Think of it like kind of how Jan Villa plays for us now. The only difference is these midfielders, these guys better be able to work, because in this system, they are moving up and back. It can be a very direct system in this scheme. However, in in the cases, which is most of the game, where these long ball lanes aren't open, this is going to require a lot of pass and move. It's going to require your wing backs getting in further elevated positions so that the ball can be worked. Now, this is generally how we'll see a lot of things move. It's very, very basic in that respect. Now, what you're going to notice also is, I know a lot of people talk about, the schemes with Diego Martinez, they leave us to leak goals. That's why he concedes so many goals. That's actually not really the case, because you're going to notice, even though both of these fullbacks, when the ball, we're going to put the ball back here to the goalkeeper. When the ball's played to the center back, both of these fullbacks are going to spread out, right? You're going to have another center back that's going to go wide, waiting for the ball here. You're going to have at least one center mid that's going to show for the ball here. The other's going to stay further forward. Once the ball gets played, especially if it's played directly to the wing back here, this wing back will usually go forward with the ball. Now, what's going to happen is the defensive line is going to settle into a back three. The other wing back is going to sit in line with the other two center backs. You will have a midfielder here. He's not really playing as a pivot because both of these midfielders have to move forward. They have to move forward. They have to present options to the ball, and they have to be involved in this offense. Now, ideally, and this is how we saw it happen with Granada, was that this is a direct style of play. So don't expect a lot in most cases. Well, I should say this. In the teams that he played with, we didn't see a lot of like just moving the ball aimlessly around. It was very direct, kind of like Ike's system under Almeida this season. It was, in terms of passes per possession, you had the ball here, ball in here, and if the ball didn't go out here, it went into the 10 here, or into the pivot point if the striker was present, and then here and into the goal. So you're looking at maybe on like maximum 6 actions before a shot was getting off in this respect. Now, the Diego Martinez, if a game calls for more possession, or if he's realizing his team is in the driver's seat, you will see things be worked around a little bit more. This is not something that happens very frequently. It is more of something that happens with context. And then you'll see tighter lines like this. The positioning will be in a lot more triangles, and the ball will get worked around. This small guy will be more of a 10. This will be more of the role that we're used to seeing a guy like Kostas Fortounis playing, versus a shadow role that we saw more success with a guy like Pep Biel. Our striker has to be able to play ball, and he also has to be very physical too. Something that was very common with the players that played for Granada. He can't just sit still either. I don't know how a guy like Youssef El Arabi would play like this when Granada had somebody like Saldada, who was actually pretty mobile. But in terms of the grand scheme of things, you're looking at generally very direct ball playing. It's going to be a few passes, stretch the field, and either the ball is going to play into the corner, or if the defense is drawn in, the ball is going to be played either forward in here, or it's going to develop a little bit more slowly. Now, again, this is about as general and as consistent as the ball I could see, the possession ball I could see getting played. The big thing, though, that you guys have to remember is that the system that we will see under Olympiacos will most likely be different than how he's played under Espanyol and under Granada. We know, based on some of the games that he played with Granada, that we can play possession ball, move the ball around very well. We can also play very direct. But he changes his system so much. I mean, guys, I'm not kidding when I tell you there were a couple of times last night and this morning when I watched tape, 4 different games, I saw 4 different styles of play being played. This guy is not, he's a modern coach. He's not sticking with one scheme. He's very much, I want to say it was Gasperini that said this from Atalanta, that there's no more like systems and formations in football. It's shapes and spaces, and then counter spaces to what you're seeing. I believe it was either Gasperini or Spalletti. Okay. And this is that type of coach. And that leads a lot of other questions that we need to address. But the next thing we'll get into is the pressing scheme. Costa, was there anything you wanted to add about the possession before I go ahead and share the screen for the pressing?
No, you can bring the screen back up. I was just going to say, like, I think as a starting point, as you mentioned, like tactically, 4-2-3-1 is going to be perhaps option number one for him. But I think from what I saw as well in some research, he'll change the system during the game as he needs to. I think in Europe he might be a bit more conservative. He might bring a player back and make that 4-2-3-1 a 4-3-3 with a holding midfielder that sometimes even sits in as a sweeper,
right?
Like a little bit like Katsouranis did for the Euro 2004 team. I think Vinny Souza was doing that for Espanyol. But also what I noticed a lot was that his midfielders, they have to run.
Yeah.
Like they absolutely have to have the legs to run. I think Yangel Herrera was a really important player for Granada in that third season. I think he was on loan from Manchester City, this Venezuelan centre midfielder. So I mean, I think it's been commented as well by a few people already in the chat. If you look at our current midfield, to me, okay, obviously Hwang is in this system. Hwang's going to be an important player in this system. But the other name that comes immediately to my mind is Aguibou Camara.
Yes. You know what? And you're going to understand when I talk about the pressing. So if you guys see the screen that's up now, this is going to be more about his pressing scheme, which is the more consistent and, in my opinion, the more important part of his philosophy. Because even though most Spanish coaches, I think it's fair to say maybe it's a little bit of a stereotype, but a lot of them you can classify them as the more we have the possession, the less likely other teams are to score. It doesn't. Yes.
Can I ask you a question? Like something else that I noticed from Granada. He had Antonio Puertas playing on the right. He's a left-footed winger that likes to cut in from the right-hand side.
Yep.
Did you notice? I mean, you talked about width. And how his wingers like to play on the touchline and give options to the shadow striker or the 10, and either give an option to the centre midfielder to play it in, play it back, play it out to the wing. So my question is, did you notice any trend in which he likes to play with two different wingers, one that likes to cut inside and give space to the wing backs, and then on the other hand have someone a bit more direct that would run down the line? Is that a trend in all his teams, or was that just Granada?
It was not. Look, for me, and again, my it's not like I watched dozens and dozens of hours of tape. I watched a few hours of tape. So it's hard for me to determine a real pattern. For me, the decision that I noticed, whether he was going to use more of a direct winger or more of an out and out winger, all of it came down to context and the type of team he was playing against. So in games where he was playing deeper and relying more on the counter, we saw a lot more of I'll say like inverted play from a winger, right? So you saw this against Barcelona, you saw this against Atletico Madrid, you saw this against Real Madrid. Big teams, we saw a lot of that. So I viewed it more as a contextual thing and less of a consistency type of thing. But in most, here's the thing though, in a lot of these games, he like you saw more respect for the opponents, and in that I mean it was more of like a defense first ideology, because let's be honest, the teams that he had, they weren't as good as on paper as a lot of the teams he played against. So it would start out always as like a defense first thing, and then depending how the flow of the game would be, it would change. So in the middle of a game, I mean, you saw this in his results he got with Granada against Real Madrid, against Barcelona, against Atletico Madrid, against Villarreal. You saw things like this when the context is going in his favor. He is an incredible game manager. He'll change things like that, bring people on. Doesn't matter what time of the game it is. he's going to bring people on and make moves, open things up more offensively if it has to. He's very dynamic, very different from what we saw when we were analyzing the shapes of Corberan last year or some of these other coaches. And Costa, real quick, before we get into the pressing, I think this is another good time because a lot of people have come in and out and have been watching the this tactic discussion. Guys, if you haven't done so already, hit that like button. Subscribe if you like the content you hear. If you like the analysis that we do. We do this all of the time, whether it's players, whether it's coaches. Give us a follow. Help us grow the red and white community. It costs you nothing. It means a lot to us, and it helps us continue to find even more fans of Olympiacos, fans of the red and white, fans of Ελληνικό ποδόσφαιρο, Greek football. So please hit that button. Help us with the engagement. It boosts the algorithm for us so that we can continue to connect with even more fans.
I got a good one. This is a comment for you, Ari. Άρη, πλάκα, δεν μιλάς με Μαρινάκη να πάρεις ένα καλύτερα, είσαι πολύ ωραίος, χωρίς πλάκα, μπράβο σου, είσαι πολύ καλός αναλυτής. Ήθελα να σου το πω, μπράβο στο κανάλι σας, είστε καθένας φοβεροί. Quick translation. George Sakoulas says Ari needs to talk to the chairman. Great analysis. They should hire Ari as an analyst. Congrats to the channel. You guys are all fantastic. Thanks very much, George, for the comment. Show some love. We did this for when Corberan was announced last year. Let's hope it pans out a little bit better. At least this is a summer signing. Let's say this is hopefully the coach for at least the next 2 years, guys. Again, I mentioned earlier, need to be patient, need to give the coach time. Can't just wave a magic wand and fix everything. There's a lot of things that need fixing at the club. At least I think this time round, there are positive signs. There's Gordon, who knows him. Even the head scout, the chief scout, is someone that knows Martinez from their time at Sevilla. There are some rumors as well that I need to address, like Predrag Djordjevic, the legend, the captain. He posted a picture of him alongside the Olympiacos logo the other day, and everything on socials was going a little bit crazy. We don't know anything more at this stage. He posted another picture of his mural at the Karaiskaki Stadium that was wiped away for reasons I'll never understand. Let's not get into that. But yeah, let's be patient. There are some good things here. There are good signs, and yeah, show some love, guys, for all the work being done here, and the tactical masterclass that Ari is putting on. I think it may be even better than that video of the 4-4 game between Villarreal and Granada in their first game in La Liga.
Thank you so much, George. I really appreciate it. And everybody that sends me these messages and about the analysis, I really appreciate it. You guys just reaffirm for me and give me the energy to keep wanting to do this. So I really appreciate all the kind words. And I also appreciate discussion. If you disagree with anything I'm saying, just let me know.
Guys, there are 59 of you on YouTube right now, and we have 36 likes. For fuck's sake, what's wrong with you? Just click the like button right now. Seriously. Some people are asking, is Iraola, Alex is saying, does Ari agree that Iraola would have been a far better choice? Can Marcelinho go to Olympiacos now? Guys, Marcelinho was never coming to Olympiacos. Literally rejected our approaches at least 3 times. Iraola, the whole Iraola debate is really interesting, because if you look at both of them, actually Martinez has achieved more, but it's Iraola's the one that's on the up, because he had a really good season at Rayo, like this season as well. So I find that really interesting. A lot of people are kind of adamant that Iraola is a better coach. We'll see. Time will tell. But honestly, looking at their records, I don't think that Martinez has anything to envy from Iraola. Iraola doesn't have the European experience either.
That is a very valid point. And guys, like I said, once I get through kind of the defensive oriented structure of this, I will share with you my opinion, what I think in terms of that, and what I think also in terms of the players. And Costa will share his opinion as well. We'll get to that point. But up next, we have the more defensive scheme, and this scheme is really probably the more consistent aspect of his game than the offensive part, because the offensive part changes so constantly, whether it's going to be Grenada or Osasuna or Espanyol. The shapes change so often, and for different reasons, against different coaches, against players, things like that. But the defensive scheme was a lot more consistent, and I'm going to explain. So what I have here, I have in the red squares, that's kind of the opponents, just so I can give you guys a general idea how the approach is. And in the black, of course, are the teams that have been coached by Martinez. So what I have here is I just kind of made up, like, a little bit of a shuffled 4-2-3-1, just to imitate kind of what it'll look like after a play has gone to either a dead ball or to a goal kick, just to simulate that. Regardless of what the scenario is, whether the ball is actually going to end up over here, whether it's a goal kick or not, you're going to see usually one of two things happen. And the first thing that happens is, as soon as Martinez's side loses the ball, you are going to see a shape change. The back four are going to immediately come in line. Now, I do want you to pay attention to where the placement and positioning is, because this matters. You're going to see the striker will always stay in front, and your double pivot here, one is going to sit back and one is going to join the line of the offense here. And you're going to end up seeing what ends up becoming a makeshift 5-4-1 off the ball. The back line is going to adjust based on whoever this point is. And then this midfielder here is going to be making adjustments depending on where these individuals are. Now, similarly, if you remember the deep dive we did on Corberan, this striker, whoever this is usually the first pressing point, one way or another. He's the one running to the ball, because these individuals right here, not the wingers necessarily, but the inside here. So this is usually the small, and this is usually whoever the deeper CM is. It's usually if you the 8, we'll say. Whoever's playing more as the offensive role, he's going to be staying up here. And these two are adjusting depending on where this run is going. So the ball's going to be played out here. He's making the run. Usually it's not always an inside run. Sometimes it's just straight on. What I noticed was happening, instead of like most teams that press, where the players will press in a manner to force the ball wide, Martinez's system does sort of the opposite. You will see the runner, whether it's one of the center mid or the shadow striker, or sorry, we'll call him the small, are actually going to make a run kind of towards the outside like this to force the ball to be played inside. And then this is where a lot of the interesting things happen in the Martinez system, because this press, it gets very high. For the most part, especially in his first season in La Liga, this line was extremely high up. These wingbacks were coming in and they were pressing really high up. And all of this created mayhem in the opponent's third of the field. It didn't matter who Grenada was playing against. It could have been Barcelona. It could have been Real Madrid. The press was relentless, and all just to win the ball in these danger areas. And he doesn't want to just win the ball in a danger area. The idea, most consistently, and we saw this in the Villarreal 4-4 game. We saw this in a lot of the games, especially against the better competition. Winning the ball here, and not just winning the ball and playing it wide, playing the ball centrally. This is what the danger is. This is where we see a lot of these danger balls come in, whether it's shots from the outside 18. A lot of these balls get played through right here. And it happened with such remarkable consistency that I have to believe that one of his core components of his press is to lure the ball centrally, which is interesting because at the very least, since I've been studying tactics, since I've been watching coaches, I don't think I've ever seen somebody consciously try to do that. It's remarkable. It's very unique. How that ends up working against teams in Greece, we'll see. It's just very interesting to me that is how he seems to prefer to do things, at least consistently. Then we also see things like this, and this is going to be probably a little bit more familiar to you guys. I'm going to reset a little bit here. Bring all my pieces back here. So you have your 5-4-1. And we're going to go back. We're going to go back to the dead ball situation. So we're going to put our striker back here. We're going to have our other mid here. And then we're going to have our wingers here. So in other situations, you'll see something like this where you'll have the press actually come from somebody back here. And the striker is going to try and take this ball away. And force the long ball to be played directly from the goal kick here into this midfield. And this is another situation where you saw Martinez's team get in trouble because then it's up to the last midfielder back to make the press, or you'll even see the center back coming up and making the press. That's how aggressive it gets. And again, this is in that middle position. Again, all trying to force the ball, the turnover here. Now, in some of the cases against Espanyol, you saw a lot of turnovers here, counters coming in straight down the middle. But while he was coaching Grenada, you did not see him eat a lot of scenarios like that. And he does admit that, one thing when he came into the La Liga First Division with Grenada is that they underestimated how vulnerable one mistake and one play can lead you to getting a goal scored against you. But for the most part, the murder ball that people described it as, he really didn't suffer a lot of consequences with it, as much as I would have expected for how aggressive it is. But don't be surprised again if you see the center backs making these, and then the wing backs recovering to kind of make that back three. When the ball comes out wide, here I'm going to reset everything back to kind of our makeshift 5-4-1 here. So if the ball comes out wide, you have your striker here, ball gets played to the center mid. Let's say the wing gets drawn here and the ball comes out wide. This is a spot that a lot of people may expect, okay, if this individual that's out here wide, your winger, overcommits instead of one of these central figures, it leaves you a little bit exposed. Generally, what we see are one or two things that are done to compensate. The right wing back will immediately come forward with the center mid occupying the center back space, and then the center back occupying here out wide. All the while, the entire formation is coming more condensed and coming to the left side here. When you'll notice when Martinez teams don't have the ball, they kind of collapse onto where the ball is. Everybody makes those movements except for this individual. He usually is staying in a space that's open because you always need to have in one outlet, at least, again, based on what I saw in the plays and the defensive schemes that were being run. You want to have always somebody that's an outlet when you turn the ball over, because a lot of these game plans are about winning the ball in these high press situations. So don't be surprised if whoever's playing striker isn't necessarily running box to box and tracking back a ton. He's going to be following the scheme, but he's going to be staying in one of those more open situations so that when these areas get closed down and the ball gets won, usually by the second person coming in, there's an easy ball to be played with a quick opportunity on goal. So that's generally the scheme of how the defense works in these situations with Martinez. And there's so much context. What I showed you was about as average and as basic as I could make from everything that I saw. But there's so much context. There's so many rules or I should say exceptions to these rules. And I'm going to bring it back to things that I already brought up to you guys earlier on. So he plays with a lot of different schemes, and he changes things up depending on who he play against. It's very routine. Don't be surprised if you guys remember in the third season, we had Pedro Martins when we had a lot of different formation changes, and it felt like we were losing our consistency. We were going to 4-4-3-3, 3-4-3, 4-2-3-1, and then 5-5 or 3-5-2. A lot of different changes in that respect with Pedro Martins. Don't be surprised if we see a lot of those changes and adjustments with Martinez, because with Espanyol, I mean, I already brought it up earlier. There was one point I watched 4 games, 4 different schemes in those 4 games. That could happen. Whether it's the players that we have or whether it's the teams that we're coming up against, he will make a lot of adjustments. Another thing, I'm very curious to see how he adjusts based on our player pool, because Costa already brought up, I already brought it up. This whatever we do under Martinez is going to require people that can run. One of those midfielders will be 100% Hwang In-beom. This system, whatever system is run, he is tailor-made for this type of system under a guy like Martinez. And it is we're going to rely on him, not just for his pretty astute positional ability, but for his ability on the ball and his distribution ability. We're going to need that from him. But off the top of my head, you know who would be perfect for this system and a perfect partner for Hwang In-beom, Costa?
Someone we know.
Yes, someone that used to play for this club. There is a perfect
All
profile.
I can think about is Yangel Herrera, mate.
No, he could be a perfect profile for a lot of different schemes, but for this, Guilherme, 2019, 2020 Guilherme. Oh yeah, would have been great for this system. He can move with the ball, distribute the ball. He was very aggressive. But in terms of the players that are coming back, I really believe Agibou can fit that role. He needs to be a lot more physical, in my opinion. But in terms of how he reads the game interceptions, I think he can do it. I think in terms of the profile that we saw at Grenada, he's not as technically savvy, unfortunately. This is where I think Agibou is going to struggle. Because when you look at how direct and how the ball was played, at least in Grenada. I mean, there's one touch, pass, and move, which Agibou is not stellar at. But aside from that, the behind the ball characteristics, Agibou would fit, I think, 100%. But a Guilherme that was from the 2019-2020 team would have been great for this. I don't know if in this day, how old is he now? 31? I don't think
Guilherme's 32.
Yeah, I don't think, in the current stage he fits, but that profile I think would great. You know who else I think actually would do pretty well in this system? Maybe in a less offensive role, but I think Madi might not be so bad.
Yeah, but he's gone. His mind's
but
gone.
That's I know it's not.
Yeah. It would. I mean, I think if Madi had his head in the right place and he wanted to stay, without doubt, I'm almost 100% certain that Yangel Herrera is going to be a name that we hear about in the transfer market for sure.
Right.
Is a player that's basically, I mean, he's been owned by Manchester City for so many years.
Right.
But he's never played for them. He was on loan at Granada. He was on loan last season at Girona. He's got 20 appearances, 2 goals, 2 assists. I'm just looking. He's worth 5 million on transfer market, and his contract ends next year.
Yeah.
So if that's going to be a signing that we make, for sure, guys, this is for sure. I'm telling you now, sign it. This is a name that's going to be playing a lot as soon as he signs.
Yeah, and
we don't have midfielders, man. We don't have midfielders that looking at the analysis that you've done.
No, we don't. I'm worried about that. And that's one thing I'm worried about, because I don't know. Well, forget just the midfielders. we don't have a lot of players that I think can do the running that's going to be required. And at least the press in with the intensity that that he seems to like to use, which then means if you look at the pragmatic side of how he does things, we will see things happen a little bit deeper. Side note, Costa, I know there were like random rumors, but man, if we could get Vinicius Souza from Espanyol,
he's online. He's online from Leno.
Oh, man, what a player. What a player. Let me tell you guys. I watched some just to watch him a little bit because he's a fun player. But here, one more caveat about Aguibou, and this is where things get a little bit tricky. Even though he has kind of like those defensive statistics I brought up to you in the pass and move, that's where his game kind of lacks. He can't do one touch, at least very consistently and very well. But if he's going to be playing as the guy that sits in front of the defensive line in that kind of back five off the ball, Aguibou doesn't have the distribution capabilities to get the ball quickly out wide in distance, which means then in order to accommodate that, you would have to switch. If you have Hwang and Baum playing, you're going to have to switch Aguibou to be in that line of four up front, and Inbom Hwang is going to be in the back. And that doesn't necessarily work either, because you want Inbom to be a pivot point that we can get an outlet to get the balls to further forward. So it's tricky. And that gets us onto the next part of the discussion here, is that now that we've kind of gone over all of the more like the general tactics, which, as I explained, guys, we could see something vastly different when he views our players. He could change this up. And then we could see different things depending on who he plays against. We had a couple questions about, Iraola. Would I have preferred Iraola over Martinez? And I think you hit the nail on the head perfectly. Iraola plays generally a much more attractive style of ball, or played, I should say, a little bit more attractive, more offensive oriented. Would he have been on paper maybe a more Olympiacos coach? A coach that would have played a ball 100% more how we expect Olympiacos to play? I think that's the case, but it's a question of reality here. Would we have gotten him? I don't think so. Do I think, in my opinion, that maybe he would have been better suited to play the type of ball people want? Yeah, I think that's true. But I think that people are being a little bit more negative on Martinez than I think he deserves, because I've seen enough that can tell me that he can play offensive oriented and possession style ball. I think the problem is going to be less so what he does and what he wants to do. It's going to be more so the players at our disposal, because for me, this is the more important discussion, Costa. What players can he use of what we have? We went over the keep, sell, loan. We talked about Aguibou. We talked. Did we talk about Zinkernago? I don't remember.
No.
Zinkernago could be coming back.
So the news is that Zinkernago, they want Zinkernago back for training. They rejected an offer from Trabzonspor, I heard. We know that, he said earlier on in the season that he wants to stay at Standard Liège. That's not happening, guys. Standard Liège doesn't have the money to keep Philippe Zinkernago. Mm-hmm. His value's gone up as well to around 4 million. They don't have that kind of money. What I was worried about, because I personally would like to see him back in pre-season, fight for a place in the squad again. I think we talked about it before on the show. I think what we saw last season, for many reasons, it didn't work out for him. I think his numbers speak for themselves. Like, he's a midfielder that scored 10 goals last season. We don't have that. Right. He's versatile. He can play in lots of different positions. Some might call that a weakness. But, what I was worried about is Bruges, because his coach at Standard Liège is the same coach he had in Norway, and he's gone to Bruges now. Bruges has money. Bruges is playing in Europe, but Bruges haven't made a move for Zinkernago. So for the moment, I think he will be coming back for pre-season. I think that's good news. I think if you look at the type of players that he wants, I think it's the type of player that he can use. Just don't know how consistently, or if he's going to be a starter all the time. And Agibu, you put Agibu there as well. Agibu is another player that we've been hearing about, that they want to see back at preseason. Generally, out of those 17 loanees that are coming back, I think they're not going to be more than 2 or 3 that are going to make the cut. And 2 of them are the ones that we mentioned, Agibu and Zinkernagel. And Agibu is going to be away. He's going to miss part of preseason because he's going off to Copa Africa under 23s with Guinea, and Augustin Bar's going out with him as well. And I think he'll be maximum finishing the under 23 competition on the 8th of July. So that's 3 days into preseason camp in Austria. Not great. But yeah, those are 2 players that I think we'll see back this preseason at one stage or another. I can't, to your point though, Ari, if you hear, what we've been talking about, what's been discussed about transfer priorities being a striker, 2 centre backs, a winger, a centre mid. The way I see it, centre mid for me is really becoming. All those positions are important, but if I would have to prioritize, centre back, centre mid on the same level, then do you think we're going to see any kind of discussion? I know this is a completely theoretical question, but do you get any vibes about Pep Biel as a point man at the beginning of the season, bearing in mind the El Arabi situation and that they might want to offload him? That leaves us with Augustin Bar, who's going to be in Africa until mid-July. It leaves us with Biel and Hassan.
Right.
So what do you think of that, based on what you've seen?
So he did run at Espanyol a couple times, a 4-3-3, and that point man was kind of, behind the wingers sometimes, moving. I think it wouldn't surprise me to see him try a false 9 in the 4-3-3 type of situation, but he didn't do it that often. So I honestly, man, if I don't imagine we will see, if Pep Biel was not being used as the little man in that setup, or sitting behind the striker, I'm not quite sure the role. I mean, if he's using Pep Biel on the wing based on how he uses wingers, I don't know what kind of success he's going to have. It'll be very inconsistent. It's going to vary a lot depending on who we play against. But I don't know. I don't see Pep Biel's not physical enough, man. To play as a point man in this type of role. I mean, these guys that play as the point man, like Soldado, when he was playing for Grenada, was a monster. Yeah, back to goal. I mean, getting in the faces of defenders. Do you see Pep Biel doing that? I don't know. It's
no, tough, but then he's been an absolute mystery, really.
Yeah,
you know my opinion on this. I don't think we saw anywhere close to his best last season. But I have another question for you. And what about that enganche position, the 10? Because the way I'm looking at it, to be honest with you, from everything that I've seen and heard, if I take Biel, Fortunis, and Zinkernagel, I'm telling you right now, that's Zinkernagel. That's it. It gives me his system. It gives me Nottingham Forest Zinkernagel vibes. Yeah, that free kind of role that he had in the 3-5-2, where he was kind of a striker sometimes when he needed to be, but sat a bit deeper, driving through the midfield. Sometimes, out wide on the left, cutting in. That's the profile.
Yeah.
Isn't it? That's my feeling. If you look at our 10s,
I agree with you, but I also think Zinkernagel will find success kind of how he's found success even playing on the left at Standard Liège. I saw some of the same context for his success there with Grenada. especially that third season. So I think Zinchenko would be one that could find that success, whether he's playing as that 10 or even out wide. Yeah, the Fusterol trademarked. Yeah, it's very interesting. But there's a comment here from our good friend Lakis Gavalas. Zinc is not staying. Dabo is the only viable option of the existing ones. I like Dabo as a player, but Dabo and Fariga, those types of players, we've seen a lot, and you guys have seen the stat profiles that we've done. Players that carry the ball forward very well. Diego Martinez's center mids, it's not very often that we see them carrying the ball forward all the time. It's supposed to be a lot more pass and move. Again, how that translates to Greece, how that translates to our team is one thing. But as far as the center mids are concerned, I'm not sure, unless Dabo figures out how to shore up his defensive aspect of his game, which is really bad. I don't see how Dabo has a role in a Martinez system. I see transfers coming in, man. I don't know. And thank you so much, Ragnarok, for that comment. That it really means a lot. It's and then, kind of like the Jan and Villa thing. Jan and Villa has the distribution abilities that I think are 100% needed, especially if we're going for some of those long balls down the wing. But I don't think he can move as much as is required for these systems. The comment, what was that? Look at my eyes, DC. We need to get rid of 20 players. Is that him that said that? We need to get rid of at least 20. I mean, there's so many guys that I don't know how how they would fit, how they would function. Bouchalakis is another one. Has some decent distribution capabilities, but how Bouchalakis fits in a system like this, I don't know.
No, if you're slow, you're out.
Yeah.
Here's
a good one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Aris P, I was going to bring this up. You beat me to the punch, buddy. What about Thrylos? He's shown positive things here and there, and he can't be that bad. He can't have a squad role.
Have you seen that? Have you seen that goal he scored today?
You told me about it. I didn't see it, no.
He took the ball from inside our own half, and he drove through like 3 midfielders and got into their half, offloaded the ball out to the winger, kept running, got into the box. The ball went out wide, cross came in, and like he finished it. It was great. It was a fantastic goal. And I know that one of our other co-hosts, Marshall, he was at the last B team game at Reddy, and he was saying it was men versus boys, like when Thrylos had the ball at his feet.
Yeah, and he can run, man. He can.
I know that you like him. I know you like him a lot.
Look, and there are people that have said, "Oh, that he's not the most like imaginative player." And guys, we don't need every player to be like Huang or Madi, like 2019, 2020 Madi Camara. Like, you don't need Thrylos to come on and be like the next Zagorakis, you know what I mean? The guy can be a hustler and a good 6, which I think he can be for us. I don't think he's going to be a guy, the next Wong and Baum. I think that he would be a functional midfielder that can cover a lot of ground and play the ball when he has to. There was that one game that Thrylos played for us. Was it a cup game? And people were complaining that they didn't see enough out of him when the guy had about 70 touches and a 99% pass accuracy. Like, that's what in the system, you only need one guy. We already have Wang and Baum. You don't need anybody else to be a major creator in the midfielder. You need an engine. And if he can do that, I think he's fine. I think he would work. And what this midfield's going to need under Martinez is people that can run. And that's what he can do. Like Masuras guys, we had to talk about like the inverted wingers. Regardless, Masuras is going to play in this system because he can run all day. He'll press, and Martinez is going to make use of those inside runs. That's if we're basing it off of what's available now. Masouras is playing. Get used to it. But there's going to be a lot of signings that we need, man. I mean, we're going to need at least a new midfielder. I mean, right back, Rodinei is going to need help. There's no way he can keep up with this, with his duties as a wing back. There's no way.
Do you think Andrucho stays?
Oh, come on. Yes, unfortunately, I do. Like, I don't want him to as a wing back, but I don't see this. We don't have the greatest track record of acquiring fullbacks, so I wouldn't surprise me. It wouldn't surprise me.
True.
And then the last question, and we are going over an hour here, so I know we're getting ready to close up, but there's a huge question here, and we, for all we talk about this and that, the national team and Poyet, what role does a guy like Kostas Fortounis have with a guy like Diego Martinez outside of being a super sub? I think 100% Diego Martinez is going to use Costa. In what degree? I have no idea. I mean, we talked about Gus Poyet, how, and we all know this, guys. Costa, part of what you love about him is that he just has certain instincts. And when he does certain things, he can be magical. But what annoys some coaches is that doesn't always follow the game plan. And Diego Martinez, one of the things that I read about when I was first Googling him, a lot of people talk about how the players have to buy into the system. He has the Michel effect on a lot of players, but the system doesn't work unless everybody buys in. And that's why he's able to change systems, and players just, they go with it because they trust him, and he has an effect with some of these players. If Costa isn't going to adhere to that, I can't see, besides the fact that, how much running is involved, I don't necessarily think Costa has a problem. We saw him track back this year. I don't think that's an issue, but I don't see how Costa is would be anything more than a super sub under a guy like Diego Martinez. But I do think he would be a very successful super sub. I just don't know. I don't know how he would necessarily fit. And I know that's going to be a point of tension because, he's, especially now in this time of turmoil where we don't have a lot of great offensive things going forward. How can I say that an academy child of ours is not going to be one of the most brilliant Greeks with the ball at his feet of the current generation? How can we say he can't be somebody that is going to be used regularly? It's tough, but that's, I think, an important question that we have to ask. But it's going to be very interesting. Expect surprises. There will be a lot of surprises with this coach. He's going to try different things, and he's going to see what works. But that being said, Costa, I don't really have anything else. I mean, we've hit all the key points for me for Diego Martinez. I think he deserves more credit than a lot of people are giving him so far. I think a lot of people are acting like we just signed General Gattuso, and I forgot who it was that said like this was a very average coach. We didn't have or we couldn't have signed a worse coach or whatever. Like, I promise you guys, there's worse options. There were worse options that we looked at. Bordalas, in my opinion, probably would have been a little bit more negative, but it is what it is.
Different.
That's
what it is. I think on the Fortuny subject, because it's always an issue with Olympiacos fans, I think Martinez is going to have to learn very, very quickly about the realities of the Greek league.
Yes.
And the reality of the Greek league is that you need a player like Kostas Fortounis.
You do.
It's always going to be useful to you, particularly in the Greek league. I know, some people will say he hasn't really done it for us in Europe, but in Greece, you definitely need a player like that, whether he's starting, whether he's coming off the bench. I think we saw what he could do this season. I think we saw a different kind of attitude as well. People remember Fortounis as somebody on the pitch that doesn't really open his mouth, but he speaks as a captain by the football that he plays.
Yep.
But this year we actually saw him talking more, like getting involved, like going up to the referee, like when there was a bad challenge, going to a teammate after a bad challenge, like those kinds of things, little things that camera doesn't always pick up, but these are important things when you're looking at, at the football pitch. So, Fortunis is also in the last year of his contract. We've heard that he wants more money. It's been speculated, but I think it's going. He has to adjust, just like everybody else. He has to buy into the system. He has to accept his role, and let's see. Yeah. Let's see. It's not, and I've said this many times on the show, it's not about one player. It's not about building your team around one player. It's about building a team. So it's not a team around Fortunis. We all love Costa, but he has a role to play just like everybody else. And maybe just to address a few questions that are coming into the chat before we wrap up. Uniform, Bakabu's gone. Χαιρέτησε. Stogallo. That was.
He would have been perfect for Martinez, man.
Yeah. But I mean, it's a huge loss.
Huge.
But okay, the guy wants to go out to play in the Arab world. He's got a lot of money put at his feet. I didn't like the fact that his goodbye message was one sentence, like "Thank you for your support." It's like, okay, after all that, and you see like all the love that the Olympiacos fans they give to the players, like the ones that they really like Bakabu was a really good player for us last season. Yeah, let's have it right. All of that for thanks for your support. I mean, okay, he was only with us for a season, fair enough, but still, I found that a bit underwhelming. You know, for the way that the topic really is blown up.
It doesn't surprise me, man. Like, not every player that comes through like falls in love with the club and the people here, and it sucks. It is what it is. You know what I mean? Not like guys like Inbam Huang and Sergi Canos that like really loved it here.
Oh God, I really would have loved it if he stayed as well.
Yeah,
I don't know if that's still plausible, but he would be fantastic. This is okay. So we talked about Jan momentarily, or at least whether he fits or not. Manos is saying, he's talking about supposed comments from Envila in the Greek press that he wants Olympiacos wants to renew his contract. What we know about the Envila situation is that Envila's talking to a lot of clubs.
Yeah.
In some French interviews, or some interviews he's done with the French press over the last month or so, he's expressed the will to play in European competition. So I think there's certainly interest from the Arab world for Envila, but I think he's waiting for something in Europe. I don't know if he's gonna get what he's looking for, or if he's gonna accept a pay cut, because Envila right now is one of the highest paid players at Olympiacos. I think it's over 2 million euro a year contract.
Yep, I thought it was 2.5.
I think you're right. So yeah, I'm not really sure. Like, is he? And I'm not trying to draw a parallel between the El Arabi renewal and Envila. I think these are two different things. But the lesson learned from the El Arabi situation is that you don't renew a contract based on performances prior.
Yeah.
You award a contract based on what the player can give you moving forward. And if it's a player that's been with you for a while, yes, you take into consideration the contribution of a player. But we have to bear in mind the season that we've just had and what we're trying to build. So you have to put the money that you think is worth what he's going to give you, bearing in mind it's 3 years later.
Exactly.
Ο Γιώργος ο Γαγαβουζάκης. Κριτικός είσαι ρε?
Asking about Morata. That's an interesting one. I have not seen anything about Morata links. I thought I saw, the only thing I've seen about Morata is a link to Roma. I don't know about anything coming to Olympiacos, but if you guys listen, there's a podcast that I listen to, the Roma Press podcast, just because Roma, a good friend of ours and a blogger of ours as well. Vimo's a huge Roma fan, so I've always kind of paid attention to them. But according to them, Morata's signing with them, and they've already agreed to like a deal or something. But something along those lines. Anyway, I don't think
this is
happening.
I think Manos has answered it for me. What's he gonna do here? There's literally a player that's worth 20 million. He's got a year left on his contract.
I'm sorry. Iron Man, respond in Greek. George doesn't understand English.
Τι να έρθει εδώ να κάνει ο Μωράτα, ρε Γιώργη?
Θα πάει στη Ρώμα, man. Θα πάει Ρώμα. Θα πάει Ιταλία. Don't worry about it. He's not coming.
Ποιος Μωράτα?
Oh, God.
Με τον Κοστούλα θα παίζουμε του χρόνου.
Here's one from Lucky. I hope people don't think that the mistakes in the roster of the last few years can be corrected in a year. It's going to require the sacrifice of 2 managers, given Marinakis' impatience. Well, look, forget the patience part, but he's absolutely right here. And even our co-host Martial has brought this up too, that this mess that we have right now, it's not fair to put this all on one person, one sporting director, one coach to fix in 1 year. This will take time to fix. I mean, I expect more loans out. I think, more loans. And I think I wouldn't be surprised if this year we see growing pains as well. I think that could happen. I hope for the best, but man,
Bakayoko.
Oh God, the team way Bakayoko stuff again. I don't want to.
Είναι ελεύθερος.
I would not be super thrilled with him. I'll be honest with you. I'm not a huge fan. That's my personal thing. I'm not a fan.
Πολλά ονόματα, Γιώργη. Θα ακούσεις πολλά ονόματα φέτος. What else have we got? We're going to wrap up shortly, guys. Konstantinos Georgis is chiming in. If Socrates was still the owner of Olympiacos, Morata would be the third option. Dax. There's got to be a good mix.
Come on, guys. Come on, guys. Come on.
There has to be a good mix of young players and older players. Kostoulas is a massive talent. I would be absolutely enraged if we managed to fuck that one up.
Yeah.
Like we really he's only just turned 16 years of age, but he's a player that is going to go to preseason with the first team. We know that.
Talented kid, really talented kid.
He's already made his professional debut for the club with the B team. He won the under 17s. He won the under 19s as well. We really need to take care of these kids, like him and the other kid. What's his name? Muzakitis, centre midfielder, left-footed centre midfielder. That's also going to be traveling to preseason. Anyone? You got jokes, River. Anyone who speaks Spanish will be transferred to Olympiacos.
Yeah, buenos dias, Malaka. I'm going to Olympiacos too, buddy. I got it. River kills me, man. He's got some comments, dude. He's funny. I like this guy.
Thanks for this comment too from Alex Epithetos. Don't know where the accent is on that. Είστε πολύ παλικάρια, Thrylos για πάντα. Από Amsterdam. Have a good time there. Whatever.
I love stroopwafel.
Strip waffle?
Yeah. Have you ever had stroopwafel? It's amazing.
Oh no, you're going to open another segment now.
Oh, goodness gracious. Well, we got to look, it's going to be an exciting time. We don't know if the excitement's going to be good or bad yet. We hope it'll be good, but at least we have a coach. We have a coach for training.
This is
right?
news. This is the big news.
So at least, can you imagine if we didn't have a coach and training starts this week? I honestly thought that was happening. I thought we were going to start training. Jose Anigo, dude. I was waiting for him to run training, but we have a coach. We'll see what happens, and we can only hope for the best. Look, we don't have to worry about games at least, right, until August. third round qualifier. It's second week of August. It's not like the Greek league is. Oh wait, no, that's right. We have dates. I forgot we have dates for the Greek league already. So
friendlies in July, not as many as previous seasons with the ridiculous schedule that Pedro was keeping with the friendlies every 2 days and the hard training before the friendlies. So that's
crazy.
over. I think there are going to be 3 or 4 friendlies in Austria and then a couple of friendlies in Greece and then the first official game on the 10th of August. So let's wrap it up there. Smash the like button, guys. Let us know in the vote if you haven't voted already. Are you happy with the imminent coach appointment? Maybe this show has actually changed your mind as well. Leave a comment afterwards in the comment section. Let us know your thoughts. We catch up with you afterwards as well. Share the episode too, guys. Show some love and appreciation. Not sure you're going to see. You're not going to see the tactical analysis that we've done today anywhere else. So do feel free to share. And Ari's pointing. The giveaway on Instagram is nearly finished. It ends in 15 minutes. So if you haven't done everything that you need to do for the giveaway, go to our Instagram page right now. It's pinned on the profile and you can enter that competition to win Olympiacos jersey from last season. Home kit, large size, master large. And again, guys, subscribe if you haven't done so already. Make sure you hit the bell every time we go live. That way, if you've hit the bell when we go live or whenever there's a new video, you'll be the first ones to know. Ari, Daximaster.
I'm good. Oh wait, what about the poll? What was the results of the poll?
The poll. So 67% of you have said yes, you're happy with the imminent appointment. 33% no.
Better than I expected.
So
I thought it would be closer to 50-50. That's not bad. More positivity. I like it.
End this before we go. Big ups the basketball team and Sasa μείνε στον Ολυμπιακό και γράψε στο Sacramento στα αρχίδια σου τα δύο, because you didn't write it. I'll say it for you. Εντάξει. All right. Next live when? Definitely next Sunday. Next Sunday. We're always here on Sunday. And we'll see. Again, hit the bell, mate. If you haven't hit the bell already, next episode will be up. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. You get all that information. Iron Man, big ups. I think this is a new sub.
I think he is too. Yeah. Welcome. Hilarious guy. I like him.
I like this guy. Έγινε. Do you want to wrap us up?
Oh, sure thing. Well, boys and girls, this is Gate 7 International. By the fans, for the fans. Don't forget to do the giveaway on Instagram. There's a lot of submissions already. I think this is probably the most we've gotten for a giveaway so far. So check it out. And there are more things coming. The more milestones we hit, the more giveaways we do. So help us grow the community and we will get more giveaways and more content for you guys. We'll see you next Sunday. Anything interesting happens, maybe we'll do something in the middle of the week. So until then, see you guys next time. Kalinichta. Good morning, I think, for you kids in Australia. Have a good one, guys. We'll see you then.
Ciao.